Hey, YouTube world, we are back. Hope you're having a great Tuesday so far. Please download, rate, review, subscribe, all the good stuff that I know you guys do on the daily. So I appreciate everyone who tunes in. The big headline coming out today is that Bradley Beal is sitting out of the Orlando bubble for the Washington Wizards, the second leading scorer in the NBA, opting out of the bubble. Probably the most high-profile player in any sport to opt out of the bubble, whether it be Bradley Beal, Victor Oladipo, Freddie Freeman might not make it. Mike Trout would signify a higher-profile player, but as of now, Bradley Beal represents the highest-profile player to not go to Orlando for the coronavirus bubble. And it made me start to think, is this the last time we've seen Bradley Beal in a Washington Wizards uniform? I'm almost certain that this will be the last time. His name has been floating around a bunch this offseason. If Bradley Beal wants out of Washington, he can get out of Washington. He becomes a free agent following the 2021 season, so he has 1 year left on his contract with the Wizards. And Bradley Beal has kind of maxed out his ability with the Washington Wizards. And it would seem likely that Beal, in all likelihood, he was avoiding free agency this summer because of the dull market, may become a pre-agent next year, or this offseason during the shortened offseason where everyone's under 2-year contracts and everyone's preparing for 2021 when everyone has cap space. It seems likely that Bradley Beal is the high-profile name that gets moved this offseason, other than maybe DeMar DeRozan, which is, again, not very high-profile, or low-key guys like Jay Crowder, Davis Bertans, guys who can fill pieces on rosters, but not necessarily a big superstar-level player is available other than Beal and maybe DeMar DeRozan. Probably not Gordon Hayward, but possibly Gordon Hayward can be added into that mix. And if this is the end for Beal, he has no shortage of suitors. The question is whether the Wizards are ready to take the next step, move on, and try to build some kind of future, whether or not they can get a team that will take John Wall's contract when talks expire there. When Bradley Beal has suitors in Minnesota, even though they have limited assets to be able to make that acquisition. Miami has been super active, even though I don't know how much the Wizards can get in exchange because of Miami's plans for 2021 and that free agency. I don't know what the Wizards can get in return. That would suffice moving Beal and projecting the rebuild. At the same time, the Brooklyn Nets have thrown out a number of options, including maybe the best package of all with Caris LeVert, Jarrett Allen, and then money swaps in exchange for Bradley Beal. And the Lakers are the crazy wild card that could do something spectacular. Pull trade assets pull draft picks out of their ass and send Kyle Kuzma and other pieces to Washington. All less likely, but still the wild card in the whole mix. So, with Bradley Beal's free agency ensuing, it seems more and more likely that the Wizards are going to avoid letting him walk for nothing if he doesn't sign a long-term negotiation, which he gave them a 1-year extension last offseason. I would expect to see Beal walk on this year's free agency class, this year's upcoming, or the pre-agency, maybe setting him up for 2021, depending on where he goes. If he goes to Miami, I don't know if Miami would give up Bam Adebayo to get him. If they do, then does he get the max extension and then they look to sign Giannis? At the same time, what do you do with Bradley Beal in terms of whether Beal wants to get... So the questions that we're asking, does Washington want to move off of him before he becomes a free agent? Does Beal want to move off of Washington, or is this purely just an injury delegation? Not saying that with any kind of sarcasm. I just don't know whether it's an injury delegation or if he doesn't want to go back to play for the Wizards. Whether or not Bradley Beal... So Bradley Beal wants to move. Do the Wizards want to move him? Does Beal want an extension with the team that acquires him? Can the team acquire him without signing him to an extension, which also plays into how desperate the Wizards are to make a move? All of these moving pieces make it very complex to figure out, does Beal want to... where Beal will end up come December or January of next season, tipping off, because he's the one piece that could really turn the fortunes and turn the tides of the NBA between this season and next season, when there's not a lot of free agent movement other than potentially DeMar DeRozan and Gordon Hayward, where if they opt out, they'll probably get big contracts with smaller market teams. Not saying that smaller market teams can't compete for a championship, but it's less likely that if Gordon Hayward signs with Memphis or Detroit or Sacramento, that they're going to be right in the mix next season. But Bradley Beal has the ability, and he's the second leading scorer in the league this year, Bradley Beal has the ability to turn the tide of next season if he gets put in the right situation, which again, probably only happens if he goes to the Lakers or the Nets. Any other team, it makes it more interesting, maybe makes Miami a contender, maybe makes Indiana a contender, but for the most part, it's probably going to be Bradley Beal making things interesting during the process leading up to the 2021 postseason. Or the Wizards are content to hang on, hope they can negotiate a new contract. I don't know how the pandemic messes things up in terms of his free agency and trying to make a move at this time where everyone is trying to shed salary knowing that the salary cap is going to go down. So it makes makes less suitors for Beal, and less suitors means lower price in which to acquire him. So we'll see how all this progresses, but Bradley Beal may have played his final game with the Washington Wizards.